Nate?
Yeah, I guess I didn't see it.
You ready to go? Okay. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Council President Robert J. Sylvia.
Here?
Vice President Paul M. Rodrigues.
Here.
Councilor Terry Flynn.
Here.
Councilor Henry F. Lombardi Jr.
Here.
Councilor M. Teresa Santos.
Here.
Councilor Dennis B. Toronto.
Here.
Councilor Barbara A. Bonvillis. We have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, item number 1, affordable senior housing update. Continued from June 3rd, 2019, regular meeting. Memorandum from myself, affordable housing update, and discuss our best course of action.
Motion to receive said memorandum.
Second.
Have motion and second to receive, all in favor?
Aye.
Before we get started, I want to thank those that were involved with this, the subcommittee. Council members were the Vice President, Councilors Toronto and Councilor Flynn, and the committee made up of our Senior Citizen Director, Arlene Call, and a staff of people from her team at the Senior Center. So without any further ado, Councilor Toronto.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'd like to welcome the folks, the seniors who are here with us tonight. So thank you for coming, everybody. I was going to ask the question, who thinks we need senior affordable housing? Raise your hand. Perfect. There we go. I want to thank the committee. This was a really a well put together committee. I want to thank the council for helping us put this back in place, and we feel it was very, very productive. I know it was for myself. I learned a lot. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I still don't know a lot, but we heard loud and clear some messages from a lot of consultants and people who have professionals in this industry, and we're going to share that with you this evening. And I want to also, again, recognize the town council members, myself, Paul Rodrigues, the subcommittee vice chair, Terry Flynn, subcommittee secretary, who did a great job. We all nominated her as secretary of the year. She's like, well, she goes, she's not doing it next time, though, she said. But, and also the senior center, Arlene and Chris, and our seniors, Karen Johnson, Marion Rodrigues, and Pam Rooney. So thank you very much. Thank you. So I just want to get a little slide presentation. I gave you folks a copy of it. The people in the audience can take a look up at the screen. Next screen, please. Just a quick agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about affordable housing, a little bit of the Senior Center survey, the Middletown Town Council Senior Housing Subcommittee, which we just introduced, subcommittee activities that we did, a little bit of the census that we were able to come up with, as well as a recommendation and some considerations, final recommendations, and next steps, in hopes that we can answer any questions we have going through. I'm going to do the presentation. Some of the other subcommittee members would like to say something as well in support of this. If we have questions going forward, just ask questions. We'll do our best to answer them. We might have to get back to you on some things, but we do have a recommendation how we'd like to see us move forward, get this project, started.
Excellent.
Okay? Next slide. We wanted to put in here just a quick slide on what is affordable housing. This was in every community and state, they have a median income. It's a government-assisted earning below a certain median income. And Rhode Island community has a housing inventory goal of 10% in affordable housing in each municipality. The Middletown affordable housing, the median income was 63,717, and our affordable housing inventory is about 5%. So we're a number of units behind. We think this is going to be a really good start, and we want to get this one started and then kind of start talking about what is the right way to move forward, maybe with more senior housing, but I've also been other things that people have talked about of not just building facilities, but maybe offering other incentives in regards to rents and things along those lines, okay? Next slide. The Senior Center Survey was a resource that we looked at. Arlene's did a great job with Chris in regards to surveying. They presented to us a couple of months back in regards to, it was a question on the survey in regards to senior housing. There was a lot of enthusiasm behind it, clearly identified the need for senior affordable housing. And one of their concerns is a lot of people are on fixed incomes and they have the rising cost of living. And so they need to be able to control that as well. Next slide. We kind of talked about the members already who are on the subcommittee. Believe it or not, it was created March 4th. Our task was to come back and talk with you in regards to what a good partnership might be going forward. We met for 14 weeks, and we were able to get together for 11 of them. So I thought that was pretty good. I screwed one up because I didn't get it put to the Secretary of State soon enough. But one was Good Friday. So everyone got there Friday afternoons, 4 o'clock. That was a tough time to get, and we usually came out of there around 6:30, 7 o'clock. The conversation was just always flowing. And we had coffee and pastry, so you guys kind of missed out a little bit on that. But it was, again, really a good subcommittee. Next slide. Now, these are some of the activities that we were able to do as a subcommittee. We gathered a lot of information on affordable housing research. Terry, did you have the binder with you tonight? A binder. I don't want to show the binder. We have binder information in regards to the affordable housing research. We didn't want to kill a bunch of trees, so we only have one copy. We'll leave it available if people want to go through it and read through it and see the research that we did get off of it. And then we did a number of affordable housing phone interviews as well with Marcia Sullivan, Director of East Greenwich Housing Authority, Tammy Nelson, the Director of Operations at Newport Housing Authority. Oh, thanks. John Grosvenor, Principal of Newport Collaborative Architects, and Beacon Community. We weren't able to get a hold of Beacon Community, but we did reach out to them, okay? And these are the folks that we talked to who kind of helped us come up with what we should be considering when we're looking to do a project like this. Next slide. More folks that we're able to get with are the affordable housing personal interviews. These are folks that came in to speak with us. Frank Spinella, president of FJS Associates. Frank is a local Middletown resident. Was able to come in and volunteer his time to help us understand this. He does a lot of the architect and has a lot of knowledge in this type of environment. Dimitri Damascos, retired gentleman with experience. Hold one second here. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Dimitri DeMarcos, building and financing since 1990. Congressman Cicilline came in and talked with us in regards to what his thoughts were on the project. One thing he did say to us that we heard commonly through this process is make sure you get good help doing this. It's a very complex process, funding and making sure your permits are right in your licensing. So we kept hearing that over and over again. Make sure you get good people to help you with this. Christian Belden, from nonprofit partner. Lewis Murray, Middletown resident, property manager of about 280 units in Connecticut. Cynthia Lankley, she was a local nonprofit partner, shared a vision of and cost scenarios with us. And Ann Berman and Amy Rainoni, lots to learn kind of thing. So those were folks that who came and met with us, spoke with us, gave us a presentation, and again, a lot of knowledge and helped us come up with what we feel is a good recommendation. Next slide. Okay, so we were kind of then saying, okay, when we put this subcommittee together, what is the town looking for in this endeavor? How are we going to know who the right partner is? And that's going to be based on, hopefully, them responding to what Middletown is looking to do with this project. And what I mean by that is basically the subcommittee consensus of, first on the list, this isn't in any order, but these are things we took into consideration when we look at moving forward. We want to try to make sure that this is net zero to the taxpayer, okay? Any money that may need to be invested prior to the financing being established, it needs to be clear that you can actually take those dollars and apply for refunding once the finance is established, okay? Middletown retains ownership of the property, was important. Minimum risk. This has to be a successful project. We don't want any risk. We want to minimize our risk. Tenant occupancy. We want residents of Middletown to have the right to be here first. And that's something we have to consider when you're working in a program of who may be able to do that or not, okay? There's some programs where you can't mandate that, and there are some programs you can. Again, Congressman Cicilline, in April 16th, don't do it alone. He's like, don't do it alone. And so we kind of put a stake in the ground and said, we need help. And partners, no shortage of potential partners. They're everywhere. We could find them across state lines. We can find them in Rhode Island. They're just really, using different tools. They all use different financing. They all do different property management. Again, it comes down to who the partner you choose and whether, what type of financing and how they organize their business. One of the things we also realize is that they're all in business. You might call yourself a nonprofit, but you're in business. You're not losing money as a nonprofit. You're funneling money, you're accounting for it differently, and so on. So we wanted to make sure that we do have the town of Middletown's interest in mind, and that was a common theme, through this evaluation. Okay, and all terms in the contract, what we realize is Middletown has to make sure that when we have these requirements that we want to retain the land, we want to make sure that the Middletown residents can occupy it, and if something should happen, that we will get first right to get the building back in the land. So that's something we have to work with Peter. That's all legal, but working with a partner to help us organize that. That was another piece that we wanted to make sure happened. So it's all in the booklet, so we know what happens 15, 30, 90 years down the road. Okay, next slide. Okay, so recommendations and considerations. So this was the piece that we kind of had to pull together. What type of partner are you? What does the financing look like? What does the investment look like from an upfront seed money type of things? What type of funding might be available? So we broke it down into two groups. There's a partner, but we also looked at the town board of doing it because it was brought up and it was something that came up as consideration where we as a town could go in and actually try to do this project as a town project where we could go fund a nonprofit. We could put all the seed money up. We could keep access to the property. We could organize it and run it. We could collect rents, and it could be, it's something that could be done. Some municipalities have tried that. That wasn't the recommendation we were coming back with. We just wanted to show you that was something that we did look at because it was brought up. We were leaning more towards a partner, which could be a nonprofit or a profit. They've got a lot of the experience. We don't have to learn that. Again, net zero is very achievable here because they get all the financing. Even if we put seed money up front, we'll be able to collect it back. And they have the funding resources. And again, I thought most importantly, they've done it before. So I think that's a lower risk solution to go with a partner. That's just my opinion. I don't want to speak for anybody else. And there's 5 steps to this process. I'm sure there's a lot more in between each one of these, but you have your design, your permitting, your funding, your construction, and then the occupation. And you got to manage it going forward, okay? So It's going to be about 2 years from design to permitting, 5 years for a total project. I know we all are excited to see if we could try to get it done next week, but from what we've heard, it's a 2-year permitting process. By the time you get all your funding, you get all your ducks in a row, it's going to take that long. They only fund so many projects in a year, and those are the things we have to take into consideration. But that was what we were told, pretty much 2 years for design and permitting and 5 years total project, right? Okay. Next slide, please. So a final recommendation, let me just go one more slide. You know, it's kind of what do we want Middletown to look like when we do senior housing? And again, this was one piece of housing in Middletown. There's been a lot of conversation about housing, but we focused in on senior affordable housing. And we feel that, you know, this is going to be a big investment on the town's part and the people's part, because, you know, we are putting a building up, right? And we are, you know, putting a lot of resources into helping manage this. And so we feel that it would be best to have a project manager on the town side to help manage this project with the interest of Middletown as a whole, looking after the pieces that we were looking for in regards to retention of the building, making sure that we are able to get Middletown residents in there and having our interest, because every nonprofit and profit, again, is a business. And we kind of, through the evaluations, realized we need someone who's really looking out for us and not just the business side of things, okay? And again, helping us with the ability to turn the Middletown priorities into the appropriate, you know, RFP. Being able to, when those responses come back, be able to read those responses and make sure we're comparing apples to apples. Having those experiences, we kept hearing from people, don't do it on yourself. You need to work with people to help you understand and make sure what you want as a town is in this document, in this project and in your permits. Okay. You guys, anything else you folks want to say on that? Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just wait for the agenda.
Okay. And I'm almost there. Next slide, please. So again, we wanted to come back. You said you wanted a recommendation. This is a recommendation for your consideration, okay? We would like to hire a project manager, go out to RFQ. We did this before, and we got RFQs back, but they weren't apples and oranges. They were a little bit more than what we might have needed, so we would like to go back and redo that. We have 2 out of the 5 things we already know, so this would be less of a project plan, and help us get through the design and the permitting side of things. And again, this money can actually, when we choose a partner and they go for financing, all the dollars that Middletown invests for seed money up front can be reimbursed to the town, okay? I just want to make sure that's clear, because our goal was to do 0, okay? And we really do feel that that project manager will pay for themselves, because it's going to allow us to sleep at night. This is a big project. We want to have someone focused on it, working with our town and working to make this happen. And I'm hoping this is just the first of several of these. And just because we do it one way the first time doesn't mean you have to do it the same way the next time. So this will be good to see, and we can get a good education off of this one. So I'm asking you to make a motion to have us go out, update our RFQ, and try to select a project manager to help us move this project forward. Okay. That would be my recommendation, my motion. But I'd like to turn it over to Paul and get his opinion, and everyone else speak a little bit.
Councilor Toronto, are you
Yes.
making that as a formal motion right now?
I can wait.
Okay,
I'll wait.
all right.
Thank you.
Good job, guys. Good evening, fellow councilors. And thank you for putting this committee together. I know everyone's anxious to get going, because there is a need. I mean, that was determined, there's a need. The thing that amazed me, it took me probably 4 or 5 meetings to begin to even get a grasp on the financing, the funding, the different avenues you could potentially go, what's best for the town, right? So this thing is a monster. Nobody wants to spend the money for a project manager. We all know that, right? But I can tell you, with good heart and good faith, It's the only way to go after sitting through 11 meetings. And while we have great staff in the town, nobody's an expert. We need somebody to come in, and we need somebody to guide us through this project. This could be one of the most important projects we ever do as a town, as a council and a town. So really want you to consider that. It was so much knowledge that we learned from this. It's incredible. I mean, it was just, your head would spin. When I first raised my hand to be part of this, I never imagined it was going to be that much, this complexity of a project of this magnitude. One of the companies that Dennis mentioned was Beacon Community, and I had reached out to them. One of the people we had, Lois Murray, she had worked for them, and she lives in Middletown. So I think she knew Arlene, or Arlene knew her, and so I reached out to the company. That's what they did. They did these types of projects all over New England. And, the gentleman and I had a good conversation over the phone. We wanted him to come down to just talk to us, because we would try to get every perspective from different people that did these types of projects. And they did not end up coming down to talk to us, but, these projects are very, very complex. I can't stress that enough. And again, while we have very talented people in the staff of this town, and that's not a knock toward them, I just want to make sure I stress that with the complexity of it, with the financing, with the permitting, that we need somebody that knows what they're doing, that has done this before, to guide us, that keeps the best interests of Middletown in mind. Because like Dennis said, I'm sure whoever we end up partnering with will do a good job, but we want to make sure Middletown's is protected in every aspect, from net zero to permitting. And like Dennis had said earlier, that this project, if you start permitting today, if you start on it today, it could be 2 to 3 years before you ever see a shovel in the ground. And a lot of that has to do with financing and the timing of financing and who you partner with and how they go about it. So I can't stress that enough. I thank you for your time. I thank the fellow committee members. It was, like Dennis said, it was 11 meetings in 14 weeks, and there's still a lot we don't know. So, and that's why I can't stress enough that we get somebody on board that can guide us, and guide us expertly. Thank you.
I just want to emphasize a couple of things to the town council and to the citizens listening to us today. 11 Fridays in 14 weeks. That's like a year's worth of work that we crammed into just a few months, because senior housing is needed. It's needed yesterday. We didn't want to waste time. We committed to doing the tasks that we were set out to do. I know you wanted a partner identified. However, after speaking to the list of experts that we brought in, whether by phone or in person, we had Rhode Island Housing, we had housing authority directors, we had directors of operations of housing authorities, we had partners, nonprofit partners that we spoke to. We covered the gamut, retired people of management. It's from the permitting and the design right through occupancy. As Councilor Roderick said, it really is huge. And some of the things surfaced like that, you wanted a partner. However, the partners, they have their familiarities. They're used to their funding sources and their way of doing their business. So that's what they're going to promote to Middletown. It may not be what's best for Middletown. This is why we, in our discussions, decided that really a project manager, which is not uncommon for the town of Middletown. From my understanding, we've done it for the police station, we've done it for the fire station. This is on the same magnitude. We cannot skip this step in our opinion. So I just want to emphasize those things, and to think about this year's worth of work that was done and now presented to you in about 10 minutes. We can answer questions, but I do want you to know we gave this due diligence and combed through it, and this is the way to go, in our opinion. So I'd like to introduce Pam. Pam Rooney would like to come up.
Ladies and gentlemen of the council, thank you for your attention this evening. My name is Pamela Rooney. I've been a resident of 4 Tuckerman Terrace in Middletown for 41 years, same house. My husband, been a Middletown resident all of his life, 73 years. Our children and our grandchildren are residents of Middletown. So we have quite a vested interest in the goings-on of this great town. I've been a board member of the Middletown Senior Center for 3 years. The senior housing conversation was already in the works before my arrival. Sadly, we've seen several participants pass away before their vision could be realized. This project has seen more thoughtful hours and weeks and months and, yes, years of work than anything I've ever been involved in. It would have been very easy to just give up on the whole project, send it back for yet another revision, postpone yet another hearing. Enough procrastination. We are exhausted by all of the delays, but have stood firm in making sure that our senior population is heard. This entire undertaking is a gift horse to Middletown. We already own the buildings. Let's do something positive with them now. Come full circle, if you will, from caring and educating children to caring for and housing senior citizens, some of those very children in some circumstances. Our subcommittee has painstakingly reviewed each and every angle to make this a win-win for all of us. We very strongly feel that having an overseer, a project manager, as an experienced person to take the vision of our citizens and the town of Middletown and put forth our recommendations to ensure Middletown seniors receive priority occupancy, to closely monitor and protect our town-owned assets and maintain their ownership, to work with our chosen partner for the right funding, affording net zero tax dollars to Middletown citizens. So how is this all accomplished? We know that there are plenty of formalities associated with this process on the state and federal levels, and we don't know the verbiage. But we know we can be sure that our recommendations and the success of our vision is very well worth the hiring of a project manager who does and can navigate it expeditiously for us. This is an important project for Middletown. It's present seniors and it's future seniors, and it needs to be done right from the beginning with assurances in place to keep our vision intact, the personal side of a business contract, if you will. As a hired professional, the project manager will do what he already knows how to do and in our best interest. All eyes are on you to see this groundbreaking project become a successful reality. And thank you very much for your kind consideration.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? Okay. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to open it up, if I could, right now, just to my
Okay,
fellow
excellent.
councilors, in case they
Sure.
have any questions.
That'd be great.
Okay, I am,
Yep.
I applaud Mrs. Rooney's enthusiastic presentation, okay? I think we're all in agreement with you, okay? And now that we know how old your husband is, you know? Yeah, 49, right? I'm going to open it up. Any councilors have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Councilor Santos.
Dennis, great
Yes.
report.
Thank you.
I'm glad I dropped out because you've done a marvelous job on this and I had too much on my plate. My question is directed to Mr. Brown. By hiring a project manager, will we have to set up a new department and a new budget?
No.
We won't. And where would the money be coming from for his pay?
I think we would determine that when we receive the proposals from the consultant. So
All right.
I think we'd have to see what the cost is, and then we'd identify a funding source, most likely from the general fund.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Council Lombardi.
Quick question, Dennis.
Sure.
And I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but I got to ask.
Sure.
So when we talk about, and I want this to happen, where Middletown residents get first shot, but are there any regulations that, like, you know, equal opportunity housing type thing where we, you know what I'm going, Paul?
Yeah.
Do we run into a problem where we?
Some of the folks we interviewed, Rick, that's a great question. Some of the folks we interviewed, there are regulations, certain regulations based upon the federal monies. But yes, that can be, we were assured that can be worked into the agreement.
Thank you, that's it. That's all I need to know.
Okay, let me just,
Bob, I'd like to
Yeah,
say
go
one
ahead.
more thing.
Great job, too, man.
I know that, you know, and again, I'm thinking years ahead. But as Dennis said, this could be, if this is first project, because this may have to be phased in, you know. So one of the things that we did also talk about was not just, senior housing obviously is the priority, and it will remain the priority. But what I thought was also interesting is that, you know, one of the things that we talked about or came to light was, you know, a lot of times our own children can't afford to stay here and live here. There's also projects that are out there or could be incorporated once, you know, we get through senior housing that allows for affordable housing for younger families as well, to keep people here, to keep a stable Middletown population, because we are quickly becoming a second home community. We all know that, we're all aware of it. But I just wanted to throw that out there because, you know, down the road, we really need to start looking at something like that as well. Now, I know it's a lot, and I know it's said it's complex. It's similar type fundings, similar projects. It's just under a different, you know, for younger families. So I think that's something we also need to keep in mind. You can also incorporate that with senior housing, which I don't recommend at this particular time. Senior housing needs to remain the priority, but it's something we certainly need to keep in our minds.
thank you very much. Okay, I just want to make a few comments, and I'm going to echo the comments that were already made. Yes, we've been working on this for a long time, and yes, there's been a lot of enthusiasm behind this for a long time, and yes, it's got to a point where we have to get going with this. I think you did an outstanding job. I think the committee did an outstanding job.
Thank you.
Certainly, you did your due diligence with this,
Thanks.
and I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
I wholeheartedly support a project manager
Great.
and put it out for an RFQ.
Great.
Just like I wholeheartedly, when we decide, or we'll put out for an RFQ, who we may want to do business with or not. Because there are federal guidelines in regards to this. We have to make sure that every I is dotted, every T is crossed. Especially, Mr. Brown, correct me if I'm wrong, especially with the auditing of this, a project like this. We have to make sure anytime that there's federal money involved, that, or town money involved, we're going to make sure everything's done right. So I wholeheartedly support this. I think the sooner we put this into motion, the better off we're going to be. So if you want to make your motion again, Councilor Toronto, go right ahead, and I will second it.
Help me along with this, okay?
Okay?
I want to make a motion
All right?
that we ask the town administrator to move forward with the creation of an RFP for a project manager for the town of Middletown Senior Affordability Project.
I think that's good enough. Perfect. I said I was going to second it, Vice President. I know you're not lost for words, never. But I had to second on that one, okay? I want to second this. I really, I'm really pleased that we got to this.
Great.
So without any further ado, we have a motion. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great job, people. Great job. I'll
job,
entertain a motion to take a recess until 7 o'clock. Ollie, you want to speak?
I think it's important to thank all of you because you have walked us through this process and walked with us through this process. and you haven't let your foot off the accelerator one time. So thank you very much.
You're
for your
welcome.
support.
Arlene, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to take a recess to our regular meeting. at
Motion to
7 o'clock.
recess till 7 o'clock.
Okay, motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Report card coming in.
See you at 7. Good job, guys.
No, it's just,
So you
ask him, yeah. But we'd have to leave the room, that's the key.
Let me tell you something. So much safer. All right, you put this out, on a project.